Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana. Yamunadira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana. Yamunadira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnava ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiryet Shravam Swakatha Kṛṣṇa Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto he Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Neshtiki. Hare Krishna. So today we will be covering Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 10th canto, chapter 2, Praise by the Demigods for Lord Kṛṣṇa in the womb. In the previous class, we covered Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 10th canto, chapter 1, the advent of Lord Kṛṣṇa, introduction. So before we start, let's cover the background. So, here, Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of the world. He has taken to fasting because he has been cursed that he will die in 7 days. And so he decides to fast on the bank of Yamuna, and Shukadeva Goswami appears, and many other great sages appear. And he inquires from Shukadeva Goswami. So Shukadeva Goswami is narrating the whole Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. And in this assembly of sages, there is one sage, Sutta Goswami. Later on, Sutta Goswami repeats, just from his memory, all 18,000 verses, at Naimisharanya, to the sages headed by Shankarishi. Let's go to the very first few verses. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 10th canto, chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. Shri Shukra Uvacha Pralamba Bhaka Chanura Trinavarta Mahashanehe Mushtikarishta Dvivida Putanakeshu Dhenukahe Anyaschasu Bhupale Bāṇa bhāma dhiviryutaha Yadunam kadanam chakre Balimāgad samshrayaha. Shri Shukra Uvacha Pralamba Bhaka Chanura Trinavarta Mahashanahe Mushtikarishta Dvivida Putanakeshu Dhenukahe Anyaschasura Bhupale Bāṇa bhāma dhiviryutaha Yadunam kadanam chakre Balimāgad samshrayaha. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Pralamba, by the asura named Pralamba. Baka, by the asura named Baka. Chanura, by the asura named Charun. Trinavarta, by the asura named Trinavarta. Mahashanaya, by Aghasur. Mushtika, by the asura named Mushtika. Arishta, by the asura Arishta. Dvivida, by the asura named Dvivida. Putana, by Putana. Keshi, by Keshi. Dhenuka, by Dhenuka. Anyahacha, and by many others. Asura Bhupa Lehe, by demoniac kings on the surface of the globe. Bhāna, by King Bhāna. Bhauma, by Bhaumasur. Adibhi, and by others as well. Yutaha, being assisted. Yadunam, by the kings of the Yadu dynasty. Kadanam, persecution. Chakre, regularly performed. Bali, very powerful. Magada Samshayaha, under the protection of Jarasandha, the king of Magad. Translation by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shukdev Goswami said, under the protection of Magadraj, Jarasandha, the powerful Kamsa began persecuting the kings of the Yadu dynasty. In this he had the cooperation of demons like Pralamba, Baka, Chanura, Trinavarta, Aghasura, Mushtika, Arishta, Dvivida, Putana, Keshi, Dhenuka, Bāṇasur, Narakasur, and many other demonic kings on the surface of the earth. Purport. This verse supports the following statement given by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 4.7-8. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirabhavati bharata vyuthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham paritrāṇāya sadhūnām vināṣāya ca duṣkritāṃ dharma sansthapanārthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge. Whenever and wherever there is decline in religious practice for descendant of Bharat and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. The Lord's purpose in maintaining this material world is to give everyone a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. But kings and political leaders unfortunately try to hinder the purpose of the Lord, and therefore the Lord appears, either personally or with his plenary portions, to set things right. It is therefore said, Garbham sanchara rohinyam devakya yoga mayaya tasya kukiksham gata Kṛṣṇa dvitiyo vibudhaistutaha. Kṛṣṇa appeared in the womb of Devaki after transferring Baldev to the womb of Rohini by the power of Yogamaya. Yadubhihi swa virudhyata. The kings of the Yadu dynasty were all devotees, but there were many powerful demons such as Shalva, who began to persecute them. At that time, Jarasandha, who was Kamsa's father-in-law, was extremely powerful, and therefore Kṛṣṇa took advantage of his protection and the help of the demons in persecuting the kings of the Yadu dynasty. The demons naturally appeared more powerful than the demigods. But ultimately, because of help received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons were defeated and the demigods triumphed. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkripatalham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So, in the previous chapter, we heard of many glories of the Lord and how we can make progress. And in this chapter, we'll see one theme really coming out, is that the materialists, people who are looking for sense enjoyment, they are constantly frustrated in their attempt, while devotees who are simple while trying to follow higher thinking continue to be victorious. So simply by receiving the glories of the Lord, to purify transcendental ears, the devotees of the Lord are immediately free from strong material desires and engagement in fruitive activities. So even if the devotees have any impurity, any material desire, just by constantly hearing the transcendental name, form, activities, past tense about the name, form, activities, past tense of the Lord, the devotees get purified. And so they can focus on the purpose of life, which is to attain the love of Godhead. Now, Parikshit Maharaj is fasting on the bank of Ganges, right? And he's waiting for his death. And this is around, 5th, 6th day of the 7 days when he's hearing. And he's surprised that Kṛṣṇa, in the previous chapter as we covered, when he heard that he would be killed by the 8th son of Devaki, he immediately reacted. He picked up his sword, ready to kill his own sister, first cousin. And at that time, Vasudeva somehow pacified him. Devaki's husband, Vasudeva. And 6 sons were born, one after another. And as we heard in the previous chapter, Kṛṣṇa killed all of them one by one. After he heard from Narada that demigods had received this instruction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead that they should appear in the Yadu dynasty, among the Yadavas. And that any of the sons of Devaki could be, strong enough to kill him. Could kill him. So, and this is where this particular chapter starts. And there are 5 major sections. First is that Kṛṣṇa, with the help of other demonic kings and under the protection of Jarasandha, Magadharaj, the king of Magad, was very powerful at that time. He started persecuting the Yadu kings. And so, what did the Yadavas do? They took shelter in other kingdoms. They went to Kuru, Panchal, Kekaya, Shalva, and Vidarbha, regions, and they took shelter there. They were hiding. Even Vasudeva's wives, they were incognito, residing at the residence of Maharaj Nanda in Gokula. And now, after the Shalkirbhas who appeared in the womb of Devaki, they were killed. Lord Kṛṣṇa, he appears in a womb. And at that time, Devaki had mixed feelings. She was jubilant that Lord is appearing, once again, Kṛṣṇa is there, her 7th son. Yet at the same time, she was lamenting also. She was, filled with distress because she knew that her brother is going to kill this baby as well. And at that time, as this was going on, Lord Kṛṣṇa calls the Yogamaya. And he gives her instruction. And at that time, the instruction he gives her is that Rohini, who is residing in the residence of Nanda Maharaj, she is wife of Vasudeva, you should transfer Kṛṣṇa from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. it was a difficult task. Srila Prabhupada identifies that this is a task that Yogamaya was not very confident, but since God has said, and He's giving her the assurance that don't worry, even if you don't know, you can get this knowledge and the potency to be able to do that successfully from me. And then she will be able to do that. So she follows. And then she says that I will appear afterwards in the womb of Devaki, and then, you should appear as the daughter of Yashoda. Now what's the meaning of Yashoda? Yash means fame. Yashoda means one who makes, the famous. So Yogamaya, since she appeared as the daughter of Yashoda, she becomes famous. So famous, and that the Lord Vishnu, He is narrating to her that when you would appear, you would be worshipped all over the world because you are supreme in satisfying all material desires. Now one of the things is, we devotees learn that we should not have material desires, we should have spiritual desires to serve Kṛṣṇa. So what's the difference between material desire and spiritual desire? Material desire is a desire which is focused on satisfying one's own senses. We want to feel good. And feel good by satisfying the senses. So that's material desire. And then spiritual desire is when we want to satisfy the senses of the Rishikesh, the master of senses, Lord Kṛṣṇa. So that's spiritual desire. A devotee always wants to satisfy Lord Kṛṣṇa. And a materialist always wants to satisfy the senses. So is it the center case of materialist? The materialist himself, with all his senses. While who's in the center for devotee? The focus is Lord Kṛṣṇa. So here, Yogamaya is, Lord is describing to her that she is supreme in satisfying the material desires of the living entities. And that they will be worshipping her all over the earth, all over the globe. And she will be known by many names. Maya is one of the names. Chandika, Sharada, Ishani, and so forth. And then Srila Prabhupada describes that in different areas of India, there are different names of Yogamaya. So now one of the names is Vaishnavi, or sometimes we know as Vaishno Devi. And people go to Vaishno Devi in the north to worship her, they're great worshippers. So again they go. But the importance is to understand, if they're thinking that we can ask for material desires and she fulfills very easily our material desires, if that's the focus, then that will cause their fall down. But if the focus is that she is Vaishnavi, Vaishnavi is a devotee of Kṛṣṇa, devotee of Vishnu, not a devotee of Kṛṣṇa, then they would benefit. Because then they would understand that she is a devotee of Kṛṣṇa, so they are serving a devotee. Similarly, once Srila Prabhupada, they were, Srila Prabhupada with his disciples and devotees, he was walking, and one of the disciples said that person that they were trying to preach to, he's a Shiva Bhakta, he's a follower of Lord Shiva. So Srila Prabhupada said, that's all right. If he understands Lord Shiva's position correctly, then he would be benefited. Otherwise, that will cause his fall down. If he understands that Lord Shiva is a devotee of Lord Vishnu or Kṛṣṇa, right? Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. Among all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnava is devotee of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Yatha shambhu. The topmost devotee is Lord Shambhu, Shankar, Lord Shiva. So if they understand and worship him with that aspect, understanding that he is a great devotee of the Lord, then they would be benefited. Otherwise, if they are seeking to approach Lord Shiva for material gains, like Ravan, he got Pashupati Astra as well as he was a Lord Shiva's devotee, but his focus was material sense gratification. Then that would cause his fall down, which did cause, in this case of Ravan, In the case of Ravan, as follows. So somebody could say, as we hear the very first verse, how many times did we hear Lord's name appearing? This is a verse where all the demons have been named, right? And very clearly identified, Asura named so and so. Yet at the same time, we should understand that these personalities who are appearing are actually devotees who have committed some offense in their past life, which has caused them to appear as demons. Kṛṣṇa was Kalnemi in his previous birth, we know that. His six sons of Devaki, they were Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, also referred to as Asuras by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur identifies that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary identifies that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam were the sons of Marichi. Marichi represents mind, he was born of mind. And Devaki, in her womb, they appeared, and Devaki represents bhakti, devotional service. And Kṛṣṇa is personified fear. So he represents fear because Devaki was constantly fearing that he would kill her sons. And after the 6 sons, and these sons represent Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsara. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. So once, due to fear, these 6 qualities, the bad qualities, of course, they are vanquished, and Lord Sankarsana appears to make the place suitable for the appearance of the Lord. So when one is enlightened, then Lord appears in the heart of a devotee, whose these 6 bad qualities are eradicated. Now all these demons were very powerful, yet at the same time the word Bali has been used in the case of Kṛṣṇa. So it's very important to understand. This is where I was working with an interior decorator and an architect. And I was asking them, what's the quality of, how do you know which building is great inside interior? They actually identified, look at the area where the most dirt happens, and that will tell how good the whole facility is maintained. And they refer to restrooms, basically. They explained to me that if you go to a place, the restroom is really spick and span and very nicely maintained, you can be sure that the rest of the building is very nicely maintained. Okay. So, and then I was discussing with the devotees, and one of the senior devotees, he referred that is so true, because if you look at it, in all the pastimes of the Lord, the demons, especially the one, like Ravan in the case of Ramayana, right, in the case of Lord Ram. Ramayana is glorified as a Brahmana, very powerful king. And his glories, when he is killed by Lord Ram, that glorifies Lord Ram, that he has killed such a great demon, who was so powerful, so valiant, he was so exalted in the eyes of some personalities. So, again, in the case of Hiranyakashipu, he was so powerful that he could do the service of Indra, Suryadev, Agni, Varuna, all the great demigods. He would come up and he would, do the service of sun so well that during his reign there was no scarcity of grains, no scarcity of fruits, no scarcity. Again, people were very happy if they were materialists. The devotees were equally, unhappy because they were being tormented by his soldiers and his followers. But materialists were prospering. In the case of Kṛṣṇa, the Yadus, who are all saintly personalities, the Yaduvas, member of the Yadu dynasty, they were tormented because Lord Devashi Narad, he had already identified that demigods received the instruction that they should take birth in the Yadu dynasty. So knowing that these are demigods, the demons started persecuting them. Now how did Jarasandha, who was such a mighty ruler, king, come in contact with Kṛṣṇa? That's also a very nice story. So, once it so happened that Jarasandha was on this great rampage, he was, winning one kingdom after another, and he was imprisoning the kings. And we'll cover that later on, as what was the purpose. He was imprisoning all these kings, and his son Sahadeva was just managing the kingdom in his absence, but Jarasandha was with his army. And in Mahabharata, we had 11 Akshani on the Kaurava side, 7 on the Pandava side, 18 Akshanis. Jarasandha, he would come minimum with 17 Akshanis army together. So you can imagine. More than what was gathered at the Battle of Kurukshetra. So he was, and he had one elephant that he had captured from Vindhyachal mountain. Kuvalpiriya was the name of the elephant. It was a mad elephant. He had the strength of 10,000 elephants. And this elephant is also, a devotee who was cursed. He was the son of Bali Maharaj, one of the sons. Bali Maharaj had 100 sons. His eldest son was Bhāna. His name is also given, Bhānasur. But one of his sons committed an offense and received this curse from a sage that he will become an elephant. So he appears as an elephant. And Jarasandha was somehow able to capture this elephant. And he would just leave this elephant loose. And the elephant itself would destroy the other army. So powerful was this elephant, Kuvalpiriya. So he was outside in Mathura. He sets up his camp at a distance. And of course, Kuvalpiriya, he would be controlled, by many other, not just humans. Elephants would be required to somehow put him in shackles and chains. Somehow he came loose and he ran. Which direction did he run? He ran towards Mathura. The gates were open, he ran through the gates and started causing rampage in the city. At that time, Kṛṣṇa was with Charun and Mrishika, he was wrestling in his wrestling arena. And he hears this commotion, so he comes out. Now what's this commotion? Why is there so much disturbance? Why are people shouting and running around? And he sees that this big mad elephant is running towards him. Kṛṣṇa is not at all shaken. As soon as Kuvalpiriya comes, Kṛṣṇa holds Kuvalpiriya by the trunk and gives it, we call it dhobi part in India. Dhobi takes this cloth and it takes, swirls this around and bangs it on the stone, gives him the dhobi part. And before Kuvalpiriya could even understand what has happened, Kṛṣṇa whirls him around and throws him, and Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa, this is Kṛṣṇa, the brother of, the cousin of Devaki. So again, I'm telling you that sometimes these demons who were actually devotees in their past lives committed offenses, and so they were born as demons. Lord would not just interact with any demon. We'll look at many examples. Yavan Raj is one of them, Kalyavan. So, these are devotees in the past lives who committed offenses and have become demons and are assisting Lord in his pastime. And here, Srila Prabhupada also reveals in one of the purport that just like a thorn is taken out by a thorn, Lord is, he even uses demons to destroy demons. So here, Kuvalpiriya flies through the air and lands in the middle of the camp of Jarasandha. Jarasandha is shocked. Who did this? This elephant could destroy a whole army. Who could defeat this elephant? Comes to know that the king of Mathura, Kṛṣṇa, has done this. Now, there is one simple rule. If you can't defeat your enemy, then you befriend them. Jarasandha follows this rule. Simple principle. He has 2 daughters, Asti and Prapti. So, he offers his daughters in marriage to Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa, realizing Jarasandha is a mighty king, he accepts them. So these are 2 of Kṛṣṇa's wives. And now, Kṛṣṇa, after having killed Shatgarbhas, he is persecuting the other kings. And at that time, with the help of Jarasandha and many other demons, Because these demons realize that there is a great alliance between these two parties, right? Jarasandha and Kamsa. So if we join the party, we get to enjoy the riches, the loot as per se. So again, this is materialistic mindset where the demons are thinking that we will grow more strong and we'll be able to enjoy our senses. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shri Shri Sita Ram Vishnu Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Kore Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. And so, now Devaki, she is expecting Sankarshan. Yogmaya, she chants, hearing the instruction of Lord Vishnu, she chants Om, assuring that she will follow what has been instructed to her. And she follows the instructions very well and makes things happen exactly. So Lord, he is, devotees are constantly thinking of Lord Kṛṣṇa, and Lord Kṛṣṇa is thinking about who? His devotees. So he wants to make sure that the devotees in Gokula are, assured, as well as Devaki, who is constantly in fear, becomes fearless. Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he writes something about fear. So that reminds me of an incident where Srila Prabhupada, he was, after the class, he was meeting the various folks who were in attendance, and he found that there's this person who was showing himself to be fearless. So Srila Prabhupada said, sorry, are you fearless? So do you stop when there is red light, the traffic light? And the person says, yes, I do. And he says, then you fear. You're not fearless, because if you stop at the red light. Now sometimes, and the gentleman agreed, moved on. And sometimes when Prabhupada would say some things like this, people would interpret it that the devotees are fearless. Yes, the pure devotees are fearless because they are constantly taking shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Yet at the same time, in purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the devotee is constantly careful. So again, fear is very powerful. And a devotee is constantly in fear because anything can happen in this material world. And that anxiety rising out of fear, in the case of Devaki, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in his analogy, that just like Devaki was fearful, but that fear was good because then the bhakti develops in the heart of devotee, and devotee is more serious in practicing devotional service and continue to advance in the spiritual practices. So materialists, they want to survive while trying to seek sense gratification. Devotee has a different perspective. Devotees want to constantly revive their life by engaging in devotional service to purify themselves. And so Lord Kṛṣṇa appears in the heart of the devotees. And that is explained here that when Sankarshan has been transferred into the womb of Rohini, she is the eternal mother of Shesha. And Sankarshan has also three names. Sankarshan also means one who is attracted. So since he is attracted into the womb of Rohini from the womb of Devaki, the name Sankarshan comes. Sankarshan derived from Akarshan, attraction. And the second is Rama. He is also known as Rama. So sometimes when in Mahamantra the word Rama appears and is referring to Baldev, some people who are Ramchandra's Bhakta, Lord Ramchandra, they object to it, right? Not realizing that they are not different. Ram in Balaram as well as Lord Ramchandra, the word Rama is not different. And Vishnu Tattvas, they are all they are Vishnu Tattvas, they are not different. So there is Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. Yet at the same time, Ete Chams Kalaha Pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So in the first canto, third chapter, Sutta Goswami is describing that all these plenary portions describing different incarnations of the Lord Krishna, that they are all these portions and the plenary portions of Lord Krishna, all these incarnations, Vishnu Tattvas. Yet Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, and He is the Bhagavan Swayam. Indrayi Vakulam Loke Mradayanti Yuge Yuge. And He appears millennium after millennium to annihilate the miscreants who are Indrayi, who are the enemy of Indra, of the demigods and the king of demigods, Lord Indra. So here, we understand that if you understand that Lord Shiva and Yogamaya, they are devotees of Lord Krishna, we are benefited. And understand that Balaram and Ram are not different, the pastimes are specific to the specific Yogavatars and the mission that they are showing. And Lord Balaram was only 15 days older than Lord Krishna. Just something as a difference. People who are looking for analytical analysis. So at that time when Lord appears, Lord Krishna, He appears in the mind of Vasudeva. And so Vasudeva, so he immediately gets enthroned with the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he glows, his whole body glows as bright as sun. It was very difficult for common people to see him. Even Kṛṣṇa couldn't see him. He was so bright like sun. And at that time, Kṛṣṇa got the hint that Lord Vishnu is going to appear to kill me as the 8th son of Devaki. Of course, previously for the 7th son, everybody lamented. Kṛṣṇa became compassionate that she, had a, miscarriage. But now this time he is careful. And from the heart, his Lord is in the heart of Vasudeva, appeared in the mind of Vasudeva. He transfers into the mind of Devaki. And when Śrīmad Goswami is describing, he is describing that Devaki gets initiated. So only a person who has, in purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Lord Krishna in his heart can initiate another. And so when Devaki gets, initiated and receives Lord Krishna, when we receive Harinam initiation. Similarly, because when somebody has Krishna, they can pass on Krishna to us and we get initiated. The name and the form of the Lord Himself, is not different. So here, Devaki starts glowing and she appears more beautiful, and at that time, Kṛṣṇa sees that yes, Devaki the Lord has appeared in her womb and now she is expecting, and at that time he is questioning, what is my duty? Because if I kill her at this moment when she is expecting, then surely I will go to hell. This reveals that Kṛṣṇa knew that he is going to die, sometime or later. But at the same time, he is also cognizant of the fact that he doesn't want to kill his sister, because if he kills her, then all his fame would vanish, and he will surely be pushed down to the hellish planets called Andhadhamma. And so he says he thinks that he will wait for the right time when the Lord will appear, take birth, and at that time he will do the needful and he restrains himself. Yet at the same time, he's constantly thinking of the Lord, right? When he's eating, he's thinking of the Lord, that he's going to appear as the son of Devaki and kill him. As he is, doing his regular activities, he is constantly thinking of the Lord as his enemy. When he is sleeping, he will not turn off the lights. He would sleep with his lights on because he would think that any time the Lord could take birth and kill him. So he is constantly living in fear. And Srila Prabhupada explains, and Acharyas explain, that he becomes Krishna conscious unfavorably. So, and Acharyas, they reveal that, we should be favorably Krishna conscious. And the pure devotional service is defined in this verse, Anya Bhilashita Shinyam Kan Karma Vinavritam. So, Anya Bhilashita Shinyam. It's not Anya Bhilasha. Anya Bhilasha is having no desires. Anya Bhilashita means you have desires, focus on Lord, yet at the same time when you are in dire need, like dire emergency, we have, like Dhan Maharaj, once he was being engulfed by the snake, and at that time he cried out, "Oh Krishna, I am so surrendered to you, please save me." So when a devotee is in danger, cleanliness is next to godliness. You can become godly, but you cannot become God. God is already there. The position is taken, and that's eternally occupied. But and at times he would joke around, and he would even reveal that why become God when I become greater than God? Yashoda Mai, she becomes the mother of God, right? The mother of Krishna, so much so that she was chastising Krishna. And Queen Kunti in her prayers is expressing her bewilderment that I do not understand how you could be fearing the gopi. She is referring to Yashoda Mai. You could be fearing the gopi while the fear personified fears you. So why to become God when you can become greater than God? Just by following the acharyas and the devotees of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord. So here, it's very nicely revealed that when Devaki, she was glowing. Now in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada reveals that somebody could say that in the womb of Devaki, the Shatgarbhas appeared. They were asuras, right? They had committed an offense in the past. As sons of Marichi, once they laughed on a mistake bewilderment or illusion that was faced by Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma cursed them to become asuras, demons. And then they appeared as the 6 sons of Kalnemi. They were the grandsons of Hiranyakashipu. So these were great personalities, demigods, appearing as asuras. And now these asuras have appeared later on in the womb of Devaki. So how could it be that Lord is appearing in the womb which had been previously occupied by the asuras? And Srila Prabhupada reveals, he refers to many acharyas. One of the acharyas is also there. Chikrotipala is also there. So he is revealing that all the acharyas have revealed that when Lord appears, first of all, Sankarshan appears to make the place appropriate for the appearance of the Lord. And then, after being transferred to the womb of Devaki, womb of Rohini, Lord appears and he appears in the heart. So this appearance from mind of Vasudeva and then transferred into the mind of Devaki, and then he's in the heart of Devaki. It's a heart-to-heart relationship. So devotees, we have heart-to-heart relationships. We don't have mundane relationships, especially in the disciplic succession. And devotee is always ready to do everything they can do to serve the Lord. And Lord is always ready to do everything they can do to save his devotees. So here, Devaki is, expecting, and at that time, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the main demigods, all the demigods, including Indra, Varuna, Chandra, and so forth, they all come and they glorify the Lord. And when they are glorified, those prayers are known as Garbhastuti prayers. And these Garbhastuti prayers is again start with the glorification of the Lord, and the major portion is about the allegory of the body, the material body that we receive, and how Lord is the creator, maintainer and annihilator. Now every time this creation, maintenance and annihilation aspect comes, people have this perspective that Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer and Shiva is the destroyer. That's all the secondary creation. They don't understand that the primary creation is starting with Mahavishnu, lying down with the Buddha-Vishnu. So the primary creator, maintainer and annihilator is the Mahavishnu incarnation. And then later on, the various universes come, and in each universe, which is the secondary creation, these three personalities, they take on by the potency of Mahavishnu. So, it so happened that, again, when we start journey, our spiritual journey, it starts with simply by the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And even this Mahamantra is also prayer, just like the Garbhasthuti prayers, right? And this prayer is even more glorified because it is asking to be direct engagement. It's prayer to the Lord to please engage through Mudahara, to please engage us in your service. And one of the important aspects of the Garbhasthuti prayers that is identified is that in the case of devotees, allegory is given, yet at the same time is saying that the fall down of devotee is not as bad as the fall down of a non-devotee. A non-devotee, when they fall down, a materialist person seeking sense gratification, when they fall down, they just go into the Netherlands, into the hellish conditions and make everyone miserable, including themselves. While a devotee is constantly being saved by the Lord.
Can you just repeat that?
While a devotee fall down, a devotee is re-established back. And Lord Kṛṣṇa reveals that to Arjuna. He says, Kanteya prati janihi name bhakta pranashati. Declare it boldly that my devotee shall not perish. So yes, due to illusion sometimes, or due to some mistake, a devotee may fall down, just like these demons. They were devotees, but then they had to fall down, some offenses, they were cursed, and they appeared as demons. But then, originally they are devotees, they are all living entities, and Jiva Sarupaya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. They are the eternal servant of Lord Kṛṣṇa. So when we understand from this perspective that they are appearing in the pastime of Lord Kṛṣṇa, that should help us understand that we should not try to commit any of the offenses, because offenses can lead for one to fall down. And pride is the road to those offenses, right? Because when we become proud, then we are not careful. And we become careless. There's a difference between careless and carefree. A devotee is carefree because he knows that the Lord will take care of all his things. All he has to do is carefully take care of the service and engagement in devotional service. A careless person deals whimsically because of pride or ignorance. So that's something we need to avoid. And to be able to avoid this, we need to constantly purify ourselves. And the simple process of purification is chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa. So after, singing the Garbhasthuti prayers, all the demigods, they go back to their individual residence, planets, and this is where the chapter ends. Any questions or comments?
Just that as you were mentioning earlier in your class about how the devotee is fearful of the material world danger at every step.
Yes.
And then
Padam padam yadvirdam natesham, this danger at every step.
Later you mentioned what the real fear of the devotee is, which is offense.
Yes.
And at the same time, devotees don't walk around as if we are fearful, because we know we're in Krishna's service, and we're developing a strong relationship with Krishna as we serve him more and more. But you made the point very nicely fear is forgetfulness, and that's forgetfulness is most rapidly caused by offense.
Mm-hmm. So you're actually raising a very interesting point, because if you look at it, Jai, they committed that offense of stopping the Chaturkumaras from entering the Vaikuntha on the 7th gate. And because of that they were cursed. And they were given a choice that, okay, either you can take 3 births as demons or 7 births as devotees. They chose 3 births as demons instead of being a devotee. Why? Because Lord assured them that then I am the one who would kill them. They always had this desire to have this, battle with some Kshatriya feeling, right? To fight with the Lord. And in Vaikuntha you can't fight with the Lord, so you have to come to the material world. So they have that way and then they also identified that taking birth and the process of birth and death is very painful for the living entity. So instead of suffering 7 times, it's better to suffer just 3 times and still fulfill your desire. So that satisfies the Kumaras, this satisfies Jayat, but there is a third personality this satisfies, this punishment satisfies. Who is that personality? The goddess of fortune. Yes. Because once it so happened that Lord Vishnu, he was, Padmanabha Vishnu in this case, he was resting. And at that time, Goddess Lakshmi comes. So she sometimes leaves even Lord's, service to, bless her devotees. She's called Chanchala, goddess of fortune. That's why I said, don't think that you'll be rich always. Riches are also considered in India, we say, Hath ka mail, the sweat of the palm. And if you know there is no sweat on the palm because you are constantly washing your hands. So just like that, riches never stay with you. They come and they go, they come and go. So that's the process. So here, Goddess of Fortune, she comes to the residence of Lord Vishnu and they are stopped by these 2 gatekeepers. They say, no, Lord is resting, you come back later. So later when she comes, she complains about the gatekeepers. She says to Lord Vishnu that you need to punish them. So when they are punished to take birth, 3 births as demons or 7 births as devotees, that punishment also satisfies. So just by doing one action, Lord satisfies everyone. That's the amazing, So no matter how you interact with Lord, you get benefited. Even Kamsa, he becomes unfavorably Krishna conscious, but he's benefited because he's constantly, thinking of Krishna. But Acharyas revealed that we should not be unfavorably thinking of Krishna, we should be favorably thinking. Then imagine how much benefit we'll receive. And the fear of Kamsa is revealed because he does not get the glories at the last moment when he is being killed by Krishna. The glories, even Charan, Mushtika and all other demons are getting the glories for being so powerful, for being so amazing. But Kamsa doesn't get any glories because the fear he has makes the coward in him comes out. And that destroys the glories that he had to that point. So we should be very, very careful not to commit offenses. And be very, very careful to, always keep our focus at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, because there is danger at every step. Padam padam yatu viptam natisha. There is danger at every step in this material world. So the only place that we feel fearless is at the lotus feet of Krishna. That's a great message. Yes, thank you for reciting that.
I learned in your class about I didn't know kind of his strength was so great about Kulyapita.
Kuvalpiriya, elephant, yes.
Yeah, no, I had no idea that he had actually killed him or controlled him, not killed him. And the other thing that was so interesting, you were talking about initiating through the heart.
Yes. It's in the translation. Śrīmad Goswami reveals that Devi got initiated by Vasudeva. And then the purpose, Srila Prabhupada reveals that it's a heart-to-heart relationship. It's not a mundane, materialistic relationship of material bodies in unison. It's heart-to-heart relationship.
And then the transference
Yes.
from
Devaki to
Srimad
Rohini.
Devaki to the womb of Mother Yashoda.
Yeah, Rohini, of Sankarshan, yes.
Yeah,
Yes. So again, that's why the name Sankarshan came, because he was attracted. Akarshan, he was attracted to the womb of Rohini. So that came. Balaram, he was Balabhadra. So he was very powerful, that's another name. And Ram is because he could, give pleasure to all.
Right, so that transfer also took place through the heart.
That happened through Yogmaya. Yogmaya arranged it. The description is not given, how she did it.
Yeah.
But the description given by the Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada has said that description in the purport by saying that when Lord gives this instruction to Yogmaya, at that time, it just so happened that Yogmaya did not have this capability. The Lord said, don't worry about it. He isn't showing with his expression that I will give you. How to do that, I will provide you that potency. And so she just says, Om. Right? If somebody asks you to do something and you smile and say, Hare Krishna, that means you're going to follow it. So she's saying, Om, Pranasarva Vedeshu. And that's how they cover it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Yes. Granth Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Gauri Vaishnava ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. This is darshan from ISKCON of DC. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai.
Facebook.